Just one second. Hello. So welcome to our punctuation class. Today we're going to be talking about, I think there's 14 different types of punctuation. We're talking about the weather from all around the world. It's hot and cold everywhere. So Rafael misses the winter and Ken misses the summer is what we were just discussing. So, and I miss the spring and fall. So something about in the middle. So first of all, punctuation. So why don't we talk about what punctuation is? Rafael, do you want to answer that first, or should I have Ken answer that first?
Let Ken answer first, please.
Okay. Yes, I think punctuation is important in some sentences because sometimes one punctuation changes the meaning of the sentence. Sorry, in an official document, maybe correct punctuation is proper. If not, maybe people don't think it not so seriously about that.
That's also a very good point. That's one of the points in my presentation, so good. And so what are you talking about when you say the punctuation can change the meaning? Can you give us an example?
I don't remember. No? Sorry.
No, that's okay. Let me go. I know exactly what you're talking about. So let me go ahead and do this. Okay, so first of all, if I have the sentence in the chat box, you want a cookie. I'm literally saying you, Ken, wants to eat a cookie, okay? You want a cookie. However, in colloquial native English, I can say, you want a cookie? And that, with the intonation of my voice as it goes up at the end, it becomes a question. The first time I said it, it was, oh, look, Ken wants a cookie. You want a cookie. He wants a cookie. And so there, and so that I think is what you were getting to when you said the punctuation can make a difference.
Yes, and I think also more complicated case. This case, if you speak, actually we can get the, usually correction, sound, rows in the end, but on the document, nobody can listen to the document, so that's a problem.
Exactly, it is. And actually, if we do have some time, at the end, I have a text that I've written. It's a whatever text. It was just something that came to my mind. In order to use different punctuation marks. And what we have actually is just the text with no punctuation. And so what the idea is that you, the two students, help us and we add those punctuation marks where appropriate. And it kind of depends on your intonation, kind of how you feel about it. So there are, it will depend. Hopefully, I'm thinking we'll get to that. So if not, maybe we can go through some things very quickly. Because some of these punctuation marks will be easy. And be like, oh yeah, well, of course, that's normal. Why do we need to talk about that? So, and because we have two viewers, I see you, so I don't see you, but I know that there's two people watching, and maybe they don't understand. Maybe someone who's watching this in a week, in a month or something, might not understand, and so it's always good to explain everything. I pretty much have all of the definitions, so if we think of something else, that would be great. So, Rafael, any comments, questions about punctuation? Do you want to mention anything? Do you agree or disagree with Ken?
No, not yet.
Perfect. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and I'm going to search for the document here. Punctuation and share. All right, so welcome to the punctuation presentation today. Let's take a look at this. I think we'll have maybe Rafael, because Ken was speaking. Rafael, why don't you read this for us, okay? Just a little.
Okay. In English, punctuation is very important. This is especially important when applying for jobs or something published. If you don't use punctuation properly, it looks sloppy or messy, which isn't a great first impression.
Good. So basically, that's something I wrote. It's kind of my opinion. And so, have you ever heard of the word sloppy before? I added that because it's something a little different. It's not exactly super common. So sloppy, Ken, do you know what that means?
Sloppy, maybe messy in this sense.
Yeah, it's a synonym.
Ah, yeah, right. In other words,
It's written there, Ken.
not a good order, disorder.
Oh. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So good. So yeah, I did have sloppy or messy there to kind of help with that, the definition. But yeah, sloppy is unorganized. It's not it's not in order, basically. So that's perfect. We can be sloppy with writing. It looks like the whole stereotype of doctors. Oh, they write sloppily. We'll turn sloppy into an adverb there. But they don't write very well. They write very quickly, and so it's hard to read their signature. So we could say maybe sloppy or messy or unorganized. Any questions or comments here? Would you add anything? Do you disagree with anything written here?
I found the example, the very fatal meaning change because of the punctuation.
Mm-hmm.
Like this.
Eat your dinner versus eat. That second sentence I hate, actually, and I know hate is a very strong word, but it's terrible.
Right. So
Did well, eat your dinner is in the imperative form. It's basically saying do it. It's a kind of a command or a demand. And then eat your, as in our dinner, is also incorrect. And I mean, no one honestly would say, you can say eat, but when we have the complement your dinner, then it's quite strange to have the sentence written like that. So, yeah. I don't know if you know this word, the heebie-jeebies. It's kind of a very informal word. It's kind of like goosebumps. Goosebumps is when your skin rises up. It's kind of like, it's terrible.
Yes.
So, and I'll have to look at that the rest of the class today. Thanks, Ken. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll start with the basics. What are the types of punctuation? All right, so we have here is the period, or it's called a full stop in British English. Okay, so this means British English. And then we also have what it is here at the end, the comma, exclamation mark, question mark, the colon, semicolon, quotation mark. This is just to show you that it goes around something. Apostrophe, hyphen, and dash. And the last with parentheses, which are these, and brackets, which are these. Okay, so those should be all of our punctuation marks, as far as I'm concerned. Just looking, I suppose. Nope, that's about it. So, like I said, let's start with the basic. That is the period. All right, and so like I said, I have kind of what or how we use it, and then an example sentence. And so, Ken, why don't you go ahead? I'm just trying to think on how to do this here. Maybe we'll do one at a time. So Ken, why don't you read when we use this and the example, please.
Okay, at the end of a full sentence, Susan is going to go to Paris. It's called full stop in British English, so it should be in the very last in the sentence.
Absolutely. I'm not going to say anything else just because we have some other examples, and so I think we'll wait with that. Raphael, can you read the why and the example, please?
To abbreviate a word, see you on Friday at 9 a.m.
Good. All right. And actually, I think we're just going to go through the examples and then we'll go through questions. I think this is, yep, the last one. So Ken, this please.
As continuation, she always brings her dog. You know how I feel about that. Yeah, yes. And yeah, comma is yeah. Some people omit comma, but if the sentence has a comma, we can get a meaning more clearly.
Exactly. Well, that's the next thing we're going to look at. So we'll save questions, comments, etc. for that. What I just want to talk about, this first one is pretty simple. Everyone knows a period or full stop goes at the end of a full sentence. A full sentence could also be, what Ken wrote, eat. I'm telling you to do something, eat. Or eat your dinner. And I don't know, there we go. I'm going to say this isn't correct. This is correct. Eat your dinner, for example. So that's basically it. It just tells you to do something. It can be very short or longer. We could also say Susan is going to Paris. We don't need this to go, but sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. That's the difference between the present continuous and the be going to tense, and there's really no difference between those. Okay? Any questions with this first example? So that one's pretty simple.
No, for me.
Okay. Now this next one is to abbreviate a word. So we have the word Friday, and we also have AM. I've done this on purpose because AM goes at the end of a sentence. Now, when we have AM, period, or full stop, technically there's no period at the end of the sentence. However, with to, it looks quite strange, so we just omit that. We don't write that. Okay, so if you had any doubts about this. And Friday, and this is for colloquial English. This is not for, business. If this were professional English, I should say, we would have to write Friday out completely if it's more formal. But if you're writing maybe a Post-it note to somebody, they see you on Friday at 9. And honestly, I would take off the 9 a.m., but I've added it so we can understand the AM without the extra period at the end of the sentence. So any questions with this one? No?
The abbreviation, this abbreviation means after,
Yep.
After moon, I don't know, after something. Before.
Oh, okay.
Before AM, sorry. Before.
Yeah, well, it's before 12, and actually, AM and PM, I believe, are in Latin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right.
AM and PM, what do they mean? Let me look this up very quickly. Ante-meridian, so before noon, okay? AM is ante, which is before, from Latin, yep, and PM is post, which we all know is after. And this meridian has to be noon or 12 or midday, probably. Midday, probably. Just trying to see. Yeah, that's about it. Okay, perfect. Latin translation. Oh, it's not going to be very quick. Yeah. Oh, it means noon, actually. So before noon and then afternoon. So perfect. And the best thing about the word afternoon is that it actually means literally afternoon after 12 o'clock. That's why I love that word. Morning to me means nothing. It doesn't actually make literal or complete sense, but afternoon does. All right. And the last one here, the continuation. She always brings her dog. You know how I feel about that. when we have this ... at the end, it's kind of saying, you know how I feel about that, I don't like it, without having to say your opinion. Intonation, you can say, oh, she always brings her dog, and you know how I feel about that. That would be a positive reaction. And so again, Ken, you're also correct with this. And when I say she always brings her dog, you know how I feel about that. We understand that it's negative. And this is purely based on the intonation and how we are actually saying it, because it's the exact same sentence. Okay? So any questions or doubts about this one, this example? All right. Well, in that case, I think, Ken, you read the as continuation. So now let's talk about the comma. Rafael, can you read these for us, please?
The comma is used to separate clauses. If I have time tomorrow, I will go to the store.
Mm-hmm. Good. So if I have time tomorrow, this could actually be a full sentence. If I have time tomorrow. For example, someone says, hey, do you want to go shopping? Oh, if I have time tomorrow, sure. Okay. Or you can say, I will go to the store. So there are two separate clauses. Clauses are fragments or parts of a full sentence. Any questions about this?
No, thank you.
All right. I think there should be one. Yep, over here. Yep, there's still more. So Ken, why don't you go ahead and read this for us?
To make list of nouns, verbs, and adjectives. For dinner, we're having salad, fish, and chocolate pie.
Mm-hmm. So here we have a list of nouns. Okay, so these are things: salad, fish, and chocolate pie. We could also use verbs. He was walking, he stopped, fell, and rolled down the hill, for example. So then we have stopped, fell, and rolled as our list, and also with adjectives to describe something. Oh, he's such a funny, tall, and handsome person, for example.
And if I use this sentence, maybe I put the comma after for dinner. Is it correct? For dinner, comma, we're having salad.
To me, and honestly, yes and no. It depends on the amount of emphasis you want to give for dinner. For dinner, we're having salad, so it depends how quickly you say it as well. Oh, for dinner, we're having salad, fish, and chocolate pie. And that is actually kind of this next one here. So, Raphael, why don't you go ahead and read this, and then we can discuss kind of your question about that, Ken, okay?
To add detail, excitation. Jim, my best friend of 10 years, will be at the lunch meeting tomorrow.
Okay, good. And also, just so that you know, this is a relative clause sentence, because it really is. Jim is my best friend of 10, or has been my best friend for 10 years or something like that. And then Jim or he will be at the lunch meeting tomorrow. So we combined two of those. That's what this is. Ken, very similarly to this, for dinner, we're having salad, fish, and chocolate pie. Sure, to add detail or, hesitation, more emphasis here. And also, just like Jim, we need to separate these different clauses in the sentence here. If not, it's Jim, my best friend of 10 years, will be at the lunch meeting tomorrow. And so it's kind of very quick, and you don't have that hesitation, the pause, in order for everyone to kind of understand the sentence a little more.
Right.
Questions about that? No?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, so question tags as well. We've seen these before. Can you go ahead and do that? Read that for us, Ken.
He can't speak 10 languages. Can he?
Okay, good. One second. Okay. So he can't speak 10 languages, can he? And so here we're like asking a question, but we're asking for more information. The comma is very important here. We must have it just because this is part of the structure of a question tag. Questions about question tags in general, or this sentence.
So, for example, it's a sunny day, isn't it? I think it's not the correction, almost like how can I say, idiom-like meaning. Maybe nobody asking about the correction. Maybe asking the agreement. But in this case,
this is.
So he can't speak 10 languages, can he? Which means he can't or he can.
Well, this is technically you're kind of asking. He can't speak 10 languages, can he? This means when you first use the first clause in the negative form, he can't, you are actually saying your opinion as well. You don't think he can. Maybe something has come up in conversation. You say, "Oh yeah, John can speak 10 can speak blah, blah, blah languages." 10 languages, can he? You're in disbelief. You're like, what? How is that possible? And so that's kind of the structure for this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe asking the agreement.
Exactly. You're kind of giving your opinion. You're saying he can't speak 10 languages, right? You know, it's impossible for him to speak 10 languages. And then we're using the modal verb can because it's a capability. It's something he could be able to do. And so this we can always change. You said your sentence was, it's sunny, isn't it? And so this is in the chat box. It's sunny, isn't it? So in this sentence, the it is what we repeat in the second part for the auxiliary verb here. Okay? So it depends. He wouldn't drive after drinking, would he? Would he? Oh no, I can't spell. Would he, for example? So he wouldn't drive after drinking, would he? And so now we're using would. So again, if it's a modal verb, we use that. Any auxiliary, have, the verb to be, etc., we also would use. Okay, another one in the chat box. He has gone to Paris, hasn't he? And this is the auxiliary verb have in this case. Questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Raphael, any questions about meaning, about what we're doing with the question tags?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, hopefully everyone who's watching, they don't have questions either. So back to the presentation here. We'll move down. All right, so the exclamation mark is used. And now again, this is an everyday writing, not normally professional writing, okay? Business is something serious for Time magazine. Now, if you're writing an article for your newspaper or kind of a teenager magazine or something, absolutely you're going to be using an exclamation mark. Because I have professional here because, you know, professional things that are published, maybe in an online magazine or in the newspaper, or like I said, in kind of those more serious magazines as well. We wouldn't normally use this, but let's go ahead and let me see. What was the last thing? Ken read that. So Raphael, why don't you go ahead and read this for us, okay?
Okay. To add emphasis, surprise, astonishment, etc. He's getting married in London?
Very good. So exactly. So emphasis is obviously to kind of say it more interesting. Maybe we can say it like that. Something that's surprising to you. Whoa, shocking. Whoa. And astonishment is also very similar to, you know, to add surprise or something that is surprising to you. You're astonished. You're taken aback. Okay. So maybe they live in Paris and they've decided to get married in London. Oh, he's getting married in London? Like it's a huge surprise, okay? And also, you also see that we're using 2 punctuation marks. We're using the question mark is because you're literally asking, you're like, wait, what? But also at the same time, you're adding emphasis or the state of surprise here. So we can use 2. Again, this is more colloquial. Also, if you want to be even more, even more colloquial, you can use 4 or, the 2 of each. Questions with this one before we continue?
I have a silly question.
Yeah, well, nothing silly, but sure, you have a question.
Does it have an order to use the exclamation mark in the question mark, or do we have to can we use any order?
Well, I actually have put the question mark first because it's technically a question. They're looking for a yes or no answer here. And so that's why I've put it first.
Okay, thank you.
So your silly question is kind of, I don't know, but I would say because it's a question, that's the most important, and the emphasis comes after. Okay, so that's how I would say it. That's how I would do it. Good. I thought that was a great question, actually. I don't have a 100% answer, but that's what I would say. I'll read this next one as it's very, very short. Short phrases help. Just like Ken was saying, easier eat. It's actually in the imperative form. It's telling you to do something. This is, something very short, and we understand what it means. Help. We need help now. Even the word, if you want to say now, if you say, Mom, when do I have to do my homework? Now. Very short phrase. You understand what's going on, and so we can use that as well. Okay. Ken, try your best sarcasm. Okay.
Okay. Sarcasm. What a great day.
Yeah, that one, it kind of depends. Oh, what a great day. Something like that, which means it's a terrible day. Maybe everything's going wrong. Maybe the weather's terrible. You've spilled coffee all over yourself. You've jumped in a puddle and now you're wet. Something like that. Oh, what a great day today. Yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow. I don't know. Something like that. But sarcasm. So we can also use it like that. Okay? Questions so far? Comments?
I think
No?
maybe you might bring this topic. Sometimes this mark, sorry, I forgot the name. Exclamation mark shows somewhat very strong feeling like anger or something. So I should be careful about using this in the sentence.
Sure, yeah. I think you're absolutely right about the anger as well. I mean, here above we have talked about the emphasis, surprise, astonishment. But sure, I mean, get out. If I have get out, I think, well, that also works with the capital letters.
Time my friend on Skype chat with a lot of exclamation marks, so almost like kind of yelling. So, but if we talk, he became usual. So, yeah, that's why I noticed this problem.
I know, and I sometimes do this too. I notice when I'm writing, especially text messages or something like, "Oh, that was great! I had a great time. I hope you had fun too." All in exclamation marks or points. So, it depends on the person. Of course, it's for excitement. It's just to add more emphasis, honestly. So yeah. So I guess any kind of emphasis that you want to add, happy or sad, or anger, like you said. Very good. I think that's it for the exclamation marks. Let's go down and talk about the question mark. So question mark is going to be pretty simple. Let's move up here. Raphael, is it your turn to read?
I think so. Everyday questions. How old are you?
Good. That's basically it. There's really nothing fancy here. Just a question, just for everyday questions. And actually, I've made a mistake. Everyday questions. This is an adjective in this case. So it's together. Then again, we have more question tags. All right. So Ken, why don't you go ahead and read these for this example for us?
She lives in New York, doesn't she?
Good. So again, when we're adding the second part, the actual tag here, we do have the question. If you say she lives in New York, you just said a statement sentence, a declaration, a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is not a question. And again, instead of saying doesn't she, we can say right. And that also would require a question mark here. Okay. Very good. And it's separated. Not in reported questions. So, Rafael, can you see all of this?
My mother asked me if I had been to the doctor lately.
Good. And so this again is reported. It's a reported question. And this just means that, your mother obviously said something to you and now you're telling somebody else. So we don't use question marks in this case because, anyone know why?
Because it's reported speech. It's not direct statements. It's not a direct speech.
Direct question. Yeah, that's exactly why. It didn't come from her mother's mouth directly. It came from the other person who's reporting that. So then we don't, because it's not a question anymore. It's a statement, even though it has a question meaning, but it's not a question anymore. Okay. And here, as we can see, we use them in direct questions. So Ken, can you go ahead and read this example for us? Okay.
Okay. Tim asked, "How long have you been living here?"
Very good. Pretty simple. It's a direct question, which we'll see. We're using also quotation marks because that's what we do with direct speech. You'll see this in books, in novels. If someone says something, they'll say Tim said or Tim asked. And then they'll have the comma and the quotation marks. And I think there's a difference between punctuation. In the United States, our punctuation marks go within the quotation marks. And I think here in Europe, maybe don't quote me, quote, I think it goes on the outside. So there is a difference somewhere. And I kind of do it depending on what I feel is correct. In this case, absolutely, it should go inside. This is a question. But other times, I literally put it on the outside because it shouldn't be there. And I'm just going to maybe write an example quickly. What can I think of? Said, I will. I don't know. And now I'm doubting myself. I will be there on Friday. Here we said Tim, for example. Tim, capital, he's important. And here we put a comma because it's not the end of the sentence. And we would put that. This isn't what I was talking about when I said I do it a little differently. And of course, I can't think of an example right now. So that will have to wait for a different class. But so we'll delete that because it's not the same as our examples. So any questions about question marks? Questions about question marks?
I have one.
Sure.
In some books, I've read just one mark instead of two. I don't know exactly which one is right. So, is there any rule for that? I don't know.
You mean if I put two question marks here?
Sorry, not about question marks. No. I think I've made a mistake right now, and please go ahead.
All right. Well, you let me know if you think about it. The next one we're going to talk about is a colon. So this is called colon. We do this for listing things, normally for 3 or more objects. If not, we're just going to use the connector and. I need this and that, for example. And I can't remember who read. Raphael, you read that, so Ken, it's your turn. I should write this down.
Okay. At the store, we need butter, eggs, flour, and milk.
Good. So here we have our colon, because it's a list of things that we need. All right, so 3 or more objects is when we use it. Also, you can see here it's butter, eggs, flour, and milk. Before and, we don't use another comma. There's nothing here because that's just kind of the rule. Also, if you want to say we need and then list, you can say butter, eggs, flour, and milk. Okay, so it didn't stay on one page, but you get the point is that there's an actual list here. Okay, so I've written a little bit differently. And I'm just going to delete this. Good. Perfect. Oh yeah, and this. So that should be relatively simple. We also use it for time, as you can see here. That's pretty simple. That's one of those things like, why is it here? Everyone knows that. Here in Spain, they do things a little bit different. Sometimes they might put just, let me see. They'll put 6 in military time. They might say this. I've seen that written multiple times. I think I've even seen this with a comma. That's obviously incorrect. I think I've seen a semicolon. Maybe not. But they do things a little bit differently here. So for those non-natives, this is important. Just use it for time. Even if it's in military time.
I've heard that in America, that time, figure number time 1845 only used in the military, but here it's common. Ordinary people use it.
Exactly. Yep. Here.
Yeah, night and morning, or yes.
Yep. Here, in Spain as well, they would probably go like this. This H stands for hours, or hours, hour. Yeah. So we know that it refers to time. If I would have seen this about 10 years ago, I would have been like, huh? I mean, obviously, I can understand this is military time, but that H there would have confused me a lot. Now it's quite normal for me.
And
it is? Well, I don't know what's wrong with the United States with their measurements and our differences with distances and stuff. And of course, our time has to be different. But so actually living here in Spain has opened my eyes to lots of new things. And it makes my life difficult because the temperature I have to look at in Fahrenheit to actually understand it. Even though I kind of understand Celsius, I'm getting better year by year, but I'm not great yet. Can anyone pronounce this in military time in English?
I would say 1845. I don't know.
I'm going to say that's incorrect. Next, Raphael. Any idea?
In English?
Yeah.
I think I would also answer 1845, but I don't know if it's incorrect.
Yeah, no, actually, and I don't even know how to say this myself. This would be 1800 hours, and I don't know how to say the 45 to tell you the truth. This is quite strange because maybe let me look this up very quickly. Military time in English. How to tell military time in English? This should. Oh boy, we don't really learn this. We learn just like on the dot. Do you know what I mean? We don't ever really use the military time for anything. Here it is. Military. Oh no, they don't have what I'm looking for the minute, so it's unfortunate. Speaking 0600. Okay, so when it's, for example, if this were 50. Oh, they would say 1845 for this one. That's strange. So I was the incorrect one, and I'm the native here, so sorry. But yeah, let's say an O for 0 be at 0600. And also for morning hours, I'm just reading this. We would write it like this. This would be 0600 hours or 0600 hours. There's really no difference between that. As you might know, in English, we would say O or 0. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, anyway, so midnight is also different. I've seen midnight written like this or like this, and I look at this and I think it's not any hour. There's no hour there. So this has been quite an experience for me. So great. Any other questions about time? I thought that was pretty simple, and we had a good conversation about that. So any other questions, comments?
No.
No, thank you.
Okay. Great. We're all learning things today, which is important. Next, we're going to talk about the semicolon. Who read last? Well, I read that one. Ken, did you read this?
Yes.
So I think Raphael, okay. Try to be fair here. Raphael, please read when we use a semicolon.
To devise two clauses in a sentence. I like my boss. She's a good person.
Okay. To me, honestly, I don't use the semicolon very often. I prefer commas. I love commas. I overuse commas probably. And so for me, I wouldn't normally use a semicolon here, but you can say, I like my boss. That's a full, complete sentence, subject, verb, complement, just like she is a good person, subject, verb, complement. So when joining those together, use a semicolon. That's pretty much it. Questions, comments?
So,
Yeah, usage of go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Sorry, the usage of semicolon is complicated to me. So if I write this sentence, maybe I like my boss, comma, and she's a good person, but it's not correct about it.
Right. It's not technically correct. I think actually for my sentence with the colon, no, with the comma before this one, I think it actually wanted me to use a semicolon here because, no, was it this one? It might have been a different one. I think it was a different one. No, it wasn't that either. I wish I could remember which one it was. No, it wouldn't be those. So, because with the conditional sentence, for example, period, sorry, here, with the conditional, we kind of need this first part of if, and then the second part. So we have the main clause and then the other clause to help us kind of with the result, okay? So this goes together even though we're hesitating, we're pausing here, because if not, if you say it very quickly, it's going to be harder to understand, which Ken mentioned earlier. So going down, yes, it's just literally when there's basically two full sentences, but you want to add them together. And this can happen with super long sentences as well. Sometimes we call those run-on sentences. I would prefer to stop one sentence if it's very long, and so I'd put a period, and then of course I'd capitalize this and continue with the next one. But because these are very short sentences, we're adding them together because it's the same idea. Okay, so it has to be the same idea. We're still talking about your boss. Okay. I mean, to make this one full sentence, you could say, my boss is a good person. I like her. I would say, comma, I like her. Actually, let's see what my boss is a good person. I like her. Okay, so this is the commas. Okay, let me try a semicolon here and see. No, it's not. Whoops. So it looks like both of these are okay. We're continuing the same idea, so that makes sense. Like I said, I prefer commas. I don't know. Yeah, and normally if this is incorrect, my Word document will tell me it's incorrect, but nope, it didn't do anything. So looks like sometimes we can interchange them. use one or the other. So I think it just kind of depends. Like I said, if it's basically the same idea, then you can use it. You're just putting two sentences together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, simple and yep. Rafael?
Sorry, and about a period, can I use a period in this sentence? For instance, I like my boss, period. She's a good person.
Yep, and this would be, I would say for a lower level, maybe intermediate, very early intermediate, just because these are very short sentences. And so I would say this is for a lower level person. But yes, absolutely you can. Okay, so good. So let's delete this one, and we'll go to the question mark. I'm sorry, the quotation mark. So I'll just read these very quickly. Hopefully these are easy. Direct speech, hello, we saw this earlier. We're also using a period because it's a very short sentence. And we use a comma because that's the structure that we use with direct speech. Also with idioms within sentences, she doesn't have to beat around the bush. She could just tell us the truth. So any questions here?
I have two questions, actually. Yeah. The first one is, don't I have to use sorry, just a blank right now. A colon is in front of hello. Shall said colon, comma, colon.
No. That actually happens in Spanish as well. They would use a colon here, and that in English is not what we use. We use a comma. Okay. Just like when you write, like for example, a letter to whom it may concern. Let me think. In English we would use a comma. I think in Spanish you would use a colon like this. And that is actually, I don't think we use a colon. Now I could be wrong. I mean, unless it's super formal, maybe a colon like this. But in general, we use commas. Just like if we were to say, Dear John, we use a comma. We don't use a colon in that case. Do you have a question? Is that okay?
Okay, thank you. And the second question, I've already read some books when we had just 1 mark instead of 2 marks in the quotation. I don't know exactly if they're incorrect or if they're true.
Okay, I know what you mean. So for example, this. And I did read something about that when I was doing this presentation. You can also do this, but because we were focusing on the quotation mark, there's 2. Now, I don't really know what this is called, like a single quotation mark or something. But yes, it's possible as well. And I don't think there's really any difference between those 2. It just kind of marks a difference between the sentence and the idiom in this case.
So both cases are correct?
Yes. As far as the idioms or any kind of phrases, something like that, yeah, I would say that's okay. But as far as direct speech, we absolutely need both. We need the quotation marks with those 2 little lines.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Just to mention as well, for example, in the United States, I'm 5 feet 4 inches. So this has a huge difference, okay? 5 feet, this 1 means feet, and the 2 means inches. So you can't interchange those. Ugh, no. Okay, so that's another difference between the 2. Okay, the last one here I want to get to is the apostrophe. All right, I think this is important. The apostrophe are used for contractions, which could be with verbs with subjects, as we'll see here, and possessives, which we'll also see here. So she's meeting us at Paula's place later. We have she is meeting us. This is the present continuous. And at Paula's place, her house, her apartment, where she lives. Okay. The only thing I want to add there is as far as possessives, if the word ends with an S, we do not add another S after. So if I say Thomas's parents are joining us for dinner, Thomas ends with an S. We're not going to add an S here. Technically, I think you can, but it's not common. We understand that it's there. And Thomas's parents, so we have to say both of those S's as well. Okay? Questions about this? Both of you are. Yeah?
Family name has plural, like sounds like Simpsons. But if I wrote Simpsons, so
well,
meaning?
In English, we write it with an S. I mean, if you're thinking about the TV show, The Simpsons house. Oops, house. Okay? That's possessive. If it's a TV show, The Simpsons, then no, because we're talking about the family.
So second punctuation is correct. First punctuation is not correct.
Well, if you look at my examples, The Simpsons house is correct because that's possessive. The second one, The Simpsons, is when we're talking about a family in general, we add an S. Just like when I say I love cats, for example, we're using the word cats in plural form because it's in general. I'm not saying I love that cat, which is specific. And so if we say The Simpsons, they're referring to the family, just like, I know a family, the Smiths. So on the Christmas card, they might say, Merry Christmas from the Smiths.
So writing Simpsons house is wrong, like this.
Yeah. Well, unless their last name is Simpsons with an S.
Okay.
But because the TV show, The Simpsons, they're referring to the family, so their last name, Bart Simpson, without the S is his name. Does that make sense? For example, if it's Charles, we have to go like this.
Yes.
Parents. This is a good one. This will actually help me. Parents. Wait. Okay. So the difference between these two words, parents, P-A-R-E-N-T-S apostrophe, means it's both of your parents, your mom and dad's, or if you have two moms or two dads, etc. We're general neutral here. And then in the second one, the apostrophe S means one of your parents.
Right.
One of your parents, not both. So it's singular.
If maybe Simpsons comma means whole family, but Simpson comma S the means
possessive.
Somebody called Simpson. The Simpsons kind of, is that
Simpsons,
it? Yeah. Simpson has it. Not whole family, probably.
Well, no, it's possessive at that point.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much.
All right, good. Well, with that, we're running out of time. We've gone over a little bit, which is definitely fine. So let's stop this for now so I can say goodbye. It was great. I thought it was going to be easier than that, which is okay. Sometimes I think something will be very easy, turns out to be difficult, which is perfectly fine. I appreciated all the questions as well. So we'll have to do my little punctuation activity a different day, unfortunately. But any final questions before we finish?
No, thank you very much.
All right,
no,
good.
Thanks.
Perfect. Well, on Wednesday, we'll be talking about booking appointments and grammar. All right, so we'll be taking a look at one of the presentations from Intenga, and we'll be talking about that. See you there. If not, go ahead and watch us. I hope everyone watching had a nice time. Thanks for joining, and thank you for participating, Ken and Raphael. For now, have a great day, and we'll see each other very soon.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Stay warm or hot, wherever you are.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right, bye.